Hey, coffee experts. Those of you running independent coffee shops, you're always looking for ways that you can drop your costs. And we here at the Coffee Experts Club really understand that. And so we've started something called Indie Coffee Coalition. And what it's designed to do is to drop your costs on two of the things that you're probably experiencing the highest sales volume in your store. And that is energy drink and frat mix. Those two line items, we've created our own products and are offering you those products at a reduced cost so that you can cut out the Red Bull of America. You can cut out the main lines of energy drinks that you're doing and serve your own energy drink at a reduced cost on a line item that you're probably already making a lot of sales on anyway. The best way that you can grow sales is by dropping your costs and maintaining a current volume. So check us out at indiecoffee.co and we'll love to tell you more there.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-through openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
Hey. Good to see you boys, Drew, Ben. Both of them in the Tri-Cities at this moment, right? Or Drew, I guess you're a little outside of Tri-Cities?
Close enough.
Close enough. We call it the same thing.
Yeah.
And Drew, nice to have you back stateside, man.
Yeah, nice to enjoy the fresh, cool air.
I was hoping I was going to get to share a meal with you, but then, we're experiencing spring in the Pacific Northwest as we get a crazy storm blowing through here in late March. So it's crazy.
I was thinking over a foot of snow in late March. So
As much as I want to see sun come, like I'll take it over the 100+ heat that we're going to get here in not many months. So
right.
that's
Good
Ben's
luck.
favorite time of the year. I love any time I can provoke Ben with that one. That was my favorite.
105 degrees outside. What am I doing with my life?
With your customized 110 SPF.
Anyway, guys, I thought today we could talk about seasons of business. I think that it's really good for all of us as business owners, people considering things. By the way, if you're thinking of starting a coffee business, knowing somebody's starting a coffee business, this is the place to show up, especially when it comes to drive-through coffee. That's what this whole podcast is all about, is thinking through where are you at. If you're dreaming about something, let us help you get there. As you dream, a lot of times though, you don't consider about where do I want us to go though, right? And maybe you'll set the first set of goals, but you don't necessarily know the next set of goals. And then it becomes hard to determine, well, what season of business am I in, right? Because what fits you at the beginning, right? It's like saying you're probably not wearing the same pair of pants you did when you were in 5th grade, right? I think that's probably pretty safe to say for all of us. So I would say what was once a season for you, it doesn't mean it's going to be a forever season for you. So have some milestones and some transfers of things that you would consider changing as you hit milestone. I thought that'd be a good thing for us to discuss today.
Love it. Love it. Is this coming out of the winter season of your business and into the spring season of your business, if you will?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I was going to say in Belize, it's always the same. It's 80 degrees. So I think at least on the island, 80 degrees and sunny.
Yeah, we're going from wet season to dry season back to wet season.
That's right. But I do think you're right, Ben. Seasonally, where are you at coming out of winter into spring? I think is a good way to look at it. So some of the things we talked about, and I think we'll cover them on today's episode, is like, what season are you in when it comes to hiring the kind of people that you're hiring? What kind of season are you in when it comes to machine purchasing and thinking about your machines, your equipment? And then what season are you in when it comes to acquisition and property and what you're doing as you continue to grow? I think if we cover those three things in the next 20 minutes or so, I think it'd be good. We have a good session for today.
Mm-hmm. I think the first thing you have to do too is identify if you are transitioning into a new season or not, or even, new phase of your business. Phase one, going from a startup to a small size business to a medium sized business. Like, are you at that point or not? For the coffee industry, it's usually pretty easy to notice. Probably getting ready to open location number 4, I would say, is usually a good indicator. Your revenue is coming in so that you're not at the point where you're just like, we need customers to stay alive.
Right.
But you're like,
Yes.
oh, I can actually do something strategic with this revenue that's coming in now. I'm not just like trying to cover my paycheck. I'm trying to actually strategically put it into acquiring new products, new land, whatever it is. So that's usually like, at least from the shop point and the business standpoint, those are two good indicators. And then like from the people standpoint, usually it's like, okay, this has gotten out of hand now. I cannot control all of these kids. I can't manage all of these people. I need help managing the maybe 30 people I have employed. So those are some pretty good indicators. If you're coming up against burns that are pieces of that, you're probably getting ready to enter a larger phase or the next stage of your business.
I think it's smart to think through. I think a lead indicator is exactly what you're saying, Ben. Cash, right? Cash
Hmm.
on hand, I would say, right? Because like most people starting a coffee shop are probably trying to bootstrap something at the beginning. If you're an indie, I mean, if you're a franchise, maybe you had to show them that you had stronger financials than that. But if you're an independent, a lot of that is probably it's coming out of you've worked for somebody else for a long time. It's finally time for you to start doing it on your own. You probably had to beg, borrow, steal to get everything that you needed to get location number one up and going. To get to location number two, also probably a pretty big stretch for you pulling together. As you start pulling into location number three, you're starting to feel a little bit of that ease of like you've got a couple different horses in the race and it's helping you as you get into location three. By the time you get into location three, you're probably hitting a pretty good homeostasis when it comes to cash flow, which I'd say cash is king. I had a great investment conversation with a real estate professional in Belize about this very topic. And Drew and I, have been in a season where cash has been king, right? And in Belize, especially because you can't draw anything off of credit. Like there's nobody's giving loans. So everything you're doing has to be cash on the barrel. So for Drew and I, it was smarter for us to like everything is land lease, right? Because that gives us capital to be able to build for the next thing, right? If
Hmm.
we had gone out and started trying to buy land early, you talk to people are like, why didn't you buy the land for your location? Then you could own the location and the land. And I say that's a great business proposition for future. You know what I mean? Like there's a
Hmm.
season when you come into that spot. But if you come out of the can buying your land and building your building, you probably just exhausted a huge amount of your deployment cash, which is going to actually slow down your growth. So for us, we knew, this is 2.5 years in. We wanted three locations up. You know what I mean? And so we've used all cash on hand to go towards just building our buildings. We haven't looked at buying, but as you get deeper in, you're probably going to start thinking, okay, how should I be using my cash? And this is my warning for everybody. Like, don't start making cash and start spending wild, man. Like that is not the wisest thing to do. That's not the time to be buying a brand new car. That's not the time to be starting to take everybody on wild exotic trips to Hawaii. You know what I mean? Like it's no, no, no. Be smart with your business. Keep your cash moving for you because you're going to want those freedoms to come in a future season.
Well, in the early days, you're looking down at the business, and you're building it up underneath you and you're managing all the things and you're seeing all the moving pieces. But at some point, you're just kind of holding it all together,
That's right.
and then you have to think if you have the space and time to think, what does it look like to look up and build up into the next thing? Do I have the right positions in mind to put people into to manage the things that I'm managing? Do I have the right people that will fit into those seats? And if not, what do I have to do to get them ready for that? Do I have plans for the growth management of the shops? Do I have plans for, what direction I want to head if it's investing in infrastructure or investing in growth? And that's kind of what Aaron was just talking about. Once we have third store, we decided there's a lot of infrastructure things, a lot of things we've been dreaming about doing that we're kind of putting on as like a later development step once we get these foundational three shops. But it's always wise to be thinking about what is that next foundational step? What is the business going to look like when we move into that next arena, the next age of business that you're running.
Yeah, I think it's easy for there's almost two types of owners of coffee shops. There's the perpetual startup coffee shop where it's just like I can't ever get out of one location. I can't get outside of working on bar. Love to have two and three shops, but they just can't seem to get out of startup phase. I guess these are the two mistakes of coffee shop owners. And then there's I just opened my first location. I'm going to go buy land now and build a 4,000 square foot cafe. And I'm going to get a regional manager to manage both my locations. So it's like, I can't get out of startup and I'm going to go to mid-sized business on my second location.
Yeah.
First guy doesn't have enough money to be able to spend to get moving forward. The second guy has just enough money to tempt him into spending it all on things that he could really do himself, but wants to own land and wants to have a regional manager so he doesn't manage. Both those guys are going to have a hard time growing because one just can't get the capital and one spends the capital as quickly as he has it on things that they really don't need to be spending on. So I would say for anybody in that, like you thinking that maybe you're in the next phase of going into your business, don't look just at revenue. Don't look just at buildings or land. Don't look just at your people. look at it holistically. Because if you're making a lot of revenue, it might tempt you to go, okay, I'm going to go buy land now. Or if you already have a shop that maybe you started off, you acquired land through an inheritance, you have land, you're like, great, I don't have this cost. Maybe I should just go buy more land. Like you have to look at that all together. Otherwise, you'll end up moving too quickly. And like you said, Aaron, then you open up that third location and you're like, holy cow, I don't have the funds to open up another location for another couple of years.
And then what it does is if you're not careful, and I know this has been Drew and my mindset is we're the first drive-through coffee in Belize. You know what I'm saying? Which means copycats are coming. They're coming fast. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and so for us, we're trying to secure our market share. So that's for us, it was part of our business plan to hurry up and get our stuff up. You know what I mean? Because we want to make sure we secure the best spots where we think that there's the most revenue to be able to be drawn out of, and I think that we've worked really hard at that. We've done that, but there's going to be a phasing, right? There's going to get to a spot of, so I would say like, make sure you can have a complete business plan, like all those things, Ben, like I want a cafe and I want to be able to have a big spot where I've got, maybe a regional office and some different things I can do, or maybe some extra storage and think, but it's like, okay, what phase of the business is that in though? You know what I
Yep.
mean? And is this the best time, or this is the entire business plan? And at the beginning, I'm going to make strategic decisions. Examples like Square is a very cheap system, right? Like they're
Mhm.
not going to charge you for your POS. You can use tablets. You can just pay them a percentage on any of the revenue that comes in, just like any other credit card processor, but they're going to give you a platform. Well, Square's not going to be able to scale over time. So at some point, you're going to have to make a decision. Am I going to change to a new POS software because it's not going to be scalable? Does that mean you shouldn't use Square at the beginning? No, I'd say cut costs where you can cut costs. Like, yes,
Mhm.
like start with the end in mind. But if a POS system is super expensive at the beginning, I would say save that money and be strategic on when you make a swap, when you're downstream and it's now time for you to make a swap. Same thing. Drew and I bought all used equipment for the most part for
Yeah.
all the locations up to this point. The pain in the ass about used equipment is it's going to break down. Like it's a used piece of equipment, but you're getting it at a fraction of the price. So Drew lost some years of his life off of it. You know what I mean? Like we traded Drew's life for it, but in the end, it allowed us to keep costs down. And as we're coming into this new location, we're actually starting to look for the first time at new pieces of equipment because we're in a different season now. We aren't just like bootstrapping it. We have some money that we could put at better equipment. So be thinking about that. But I would always say, realize there's probably a lifespan and it's good to have a plan that spans the whole thing. And just for you to begin to ask yourself, when should we start shifting in our mindset?
Mhm.
Well, and I mean, one of the benefits that we've had is being under the hood of so many different businesses to understand one, how to stay consistent with ourselves and what we're checking. And then two, what is important to actually check, what types of financial numbers to keep our fingers on the pulse of the development of our the people working for us, opportunities, in whatever city you're in, the relationships that you've been building. So, the metrics that we pay attention to are, for example, our cost of goods obviously is huge. And so we've had the strategic mindset to, okay, well, obviously we want to cut cost of goods and retain quality. And then we've had this odd
Yep.
new importing and paying tax that we didn't expect to have to or understand that we were going to have to do early on in the business. So, what things we're tracking to keep our pulse on the business kind of tells us what direction that we're able to take or give. It really slims down the factors that you have to take into consideration before you take that next step. Because I mean, we did have a plan, we do have a plan, but things have changed obviously along the
Yep.
way. It's a living organism, and slimming down all of the variables that we have to take into consideration in order to take the next step has made the next step pretty clear. Instead of us wondering and sitting around waiting for a sign, it's almost been by design, whether or not on purpose or just by the good graces of God, we're pushed in specific directions in order to, shape the business into what it's supposed to be in the healthiest way. It's not spur of the moment things. It's not, just arbitrary or going off of our feelings of how the business is. We have hard metrics, and yeah, just knowing what to track and knowing what those numbers actually mean are going to push you the right way.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hey, experts, we've got something really awesome that we do here at Coffee Experts Club, and that's called the My First Drive Through Coffee Masterclass. So if you're opening your next coffee shop, I think a lot of times you may think to yourself, I know what goes into opening a coffee shop. I've been doing this for years, but maybe you've been doing it for somebody else. And maybe this is your first option of starting a coffee shop on your own. Or maybe you don't know anything about coffee and you're just like, I'm looking for a good investment opportunity. Starting a coffee shop seems like a good place to put it, and you're going to enter into it. But what you don't know is all the things that you don't know, right? And so what we've done with this masterclass is taken behind the scenes, how you find your first location, what you need to be thinking about in finding a location. We give you a gift in the masterclass where it's a step-by-step process of how you're opening your coffee shop, the different checkpoints you need from coming up with your plans and talking with the city and then negotiating a lease. And then how do you build a team and what are the different pieces you need to be thinking about? It's a great masterclass, door to door, start to finish, completely free on opening up your next coffee drive-through. So check it out. It's at myfirstdrivethrough.coffee. And it's a great masterclass. You won't regret it. We'll see you on the inside there. As we think through phases, I think giving yourself the grace for X factor, right? Like some people can be like, this is me. I'll raise my hand on this. I can get so nerdy on my plan and trying to stick to my plan that I'm not considering that there's some variables in this equation you're not going to know until you get in the middle of it. And if you get too tight and fixed to this is what we're going to do without the flex, then I think sometimes that can pigeonhole you instead. And Drew's been really good on this for me, like challenging me on, hey, I think we need to reconsider that. Hey, I know we said that at the beginning, but I really think we need to go this way. Hey, we had really thought this was going to be how it went. It actually is the opposite. There are things that I think Belize has been a great case study for anybody watching from the outside of a third world country, a different market share, a place that speaks English that the US dollar translates, but it's still not America. I mean, like
Mhm.
there are things that it's been a good litmus test for us to really challenge thoughts that we all grew up knowing here in America, opening coffee, opening dozens and dozens of coffee shops. And I think that we still consult on that. And we're doing a grand opening this upcoming month. Like I think we're still helping in coffee shops open. We've got our grand opening coming in June down in De Los Mayas, down in Belize. But I think that realizing every single grand opening you do, you're probably learning something. Every single
Mhm.
brand that you open up, you're probably learning something. Every year, POS software is upgrading. We were talking about at the beginning of the show, the POS software that Roasters was using as we exited, one that BlackRock continued to use for years. But where are they at now? How have they worked out those bugs? As we have a copy client that's looking at flipping POS softwares, and we're coming back to them with consulting considerations and then help with the rollout. I think that realizing the X factor of it's not always going to be perfect, and giving yourself the grace to shift along the journey, but still hold to the frame, I think it's like that art, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, there's a reason why we all got in coffee in the first place is because coffee is that industry where it's like, you just do whatever the heck you want to do, man, and sell a cup of coffee. And as long as you're nice to people and the cup of coffee is good, like you're gonna have customers. Like that was the whole point of the coffee industry is like be a little bit rebellious. Probably why most coffee owners aren't that great at business because they just come in as like rebellious folks who are like, I'm tired of my office job. I just want to go do something fun that can make me a paycheck, which is great. I think if you hold on to that little bit of spirit as your business is constantly changing and moving into different phases, that will really help you not pigeonhole yourself. The problem is just you get into the industry and then you get bogged down by the day to day and you forget to look up. Like we say 1,000 times, you get stuck behind a bar and you forget to like look up over the bar and go, what about location number two? Or, what can I be doing different? How can I force my business to move into the next phase just because of what I'm doing inside the business that's causing it to grow?
I mean, we've talked about it a lot on this show. And I think if you're wondering what phase of business you're in, how do you think about phases that are coming next? In my mind, like think of ways that you can begin to grow cash. You know what I mean? Whether it's
Mhm.
cutting your cogs, whether it's reconsidering your matrix of how many employees you think it takes to do what you're doing, whether it's like beginning to pick up a new revenue stream that maybe you haven't considered before with delivery or with like getting in with certain niche groups that you can begin to grow revenue. Maybe that's picking up a trailer and starting to do special events that you can begin to grow revenue. And then as you create revenue, ask yourself, how can I multiply that revenue? Not just spend it or deploy it, but how could I turn it into a multiplier? I know part of that is, and Ben, we're working with a client right now that's considering what are the roles supposed to be, you know,
Mhm.
uh, the different people in this company. Like I think it had started in this partnership thinking about this, or in this business growth, as they were thinking about this. And it was like this role versus this role, and this is how it's going to ideally work. But sometimes you get into that, and as things start growing, you realize, oh, wait a minute, I might need another role that I hadn't considered. And that doesn't change anything necessarily about the people or that were in the mix. It just means that it's the X factor, right? It's a variable that we hadn't considered. And how do we now begin to think through, how are we going to shuffle the board? CJ and Lindsay have opened these stands all over the nation, for outsider coffee. And they've got some here in the Rogue Valley, and they have some in South Carolina, and they're opening one up in a franchise up in Northern Oregon. And they've got some stuff going on in Montana and stuff going on, potentials in Florida. They've got all this stuff. Well, there's no way you can think that just those original players can be the only ones that can be on the field now. Like that's going to take more players. That's going to take more, and maybe even more skill than your original team had. And who do we need to bring in? So they contracted with us to come alongside them to help them shore up the gaps and be thinking through the vulnerabilities. And I think that it's so important to realize you're probably going to have to make a spend when it comes to personnel as you get bigger. And it's okay for it not to be all the things that you thought it was going to be. Just make sure you're really strategic on being honest of, how are we doing with the personnel we've got? How are we using the people that we have? And is there a spot where maybe we should be asking for some consultant, insight? Maybe we should be asking for some help with some hires. Maybe we should help, how can we offset loads? I think it's really important.
And it might be a little scary to make that spend at first because you don't know how it's going to work out, but many hands make light work. And sometimes the spend on the personnel or the spend on the infrastructure or whatever marketing scheme you might have in mind that you're unsure how it'll work out, it could really pay off in the long run. It could position you in ways that you didn't expect to be positioned to have opportunities that you had only hoped for maybe later in the business. But now that you've added this next player, or this maybe a new product, we've been introducing some new products in our product line, it can position you for better success than what you originally set up for.
I'll be the first to tell you, you cannot manage 55 19-year-olds across 4 locations, 5 locations without a regional manager. Just keep that back here. It ain't going to happen.
Yeah, true.
And as you consider those things, I would say, look for budgeted ways to do it best, right? Like that doesn't mean like the cheapest talent you can find. Sometimes it's like, maybe like thinking through a consultant, maybe you've never thought about that. Not just Collab team, but somebody else, maybe. At least it's a budgetable number. Like get a fixed number that you're like, I'm going to put this many dollars at trying to make this problem better, rather than just going out and start to hire people, right? Because sometimes I think we can just start hiring instead of asking us, no, that all that comes with taxes and fringe benefits and expectations. No. Let's just make a strategic decision and get some hours out of that from whoever's giving you that strategic decision to help with the lift. And then from there, you've got a couple of smart brains in the room, all having a conversation about it. So I think that's the biggest thing. So when you're thinking about seasons, like realize seasons are always changing, right? I remember working retail and there was a tag on the back of a Volcom shirt that always stuck with me. And it said, change is the only constant. And I thought, dang, certain true. So be ready for the seasons and be willing to change with them and be willing to flex for the X factor. So gentlemen, thank you for your time today. Appreciate you.
As always,
You guys.
good to see you.
Yes. We'll see you at Coffee Experts.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.